We are back. You're listening to You Would Think, the Philadelphia Flyers podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Collington, and joining me today, it's not Kevin Durso. He is celebrating his 1-year anniversary, and we would like to wish him and his wife a very happy 1-year anniversary. I believe they spent the week in Disney World. Instead, joining me today, and if you are watching on our YouTube channel, you already know this, it is my buddy, Kaylen Noga. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Kaylen is a friend of mine who is perhaps the biggest hockey fan I know. He participates in a couple of sim hockey leagues, including running one that I am a part of. I managed to get the Philadelphia Flyers in that league, and that was one of my primary reasons for joining, honestly. But Kaylen, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good. A little bit tired, a little bit going a little stir crazy, but you know what? A great league has been born out of everything that happened outside in the world. So can't be too disappointed being stuck inside the house.
No, for sure. And for some of our listeners who may not know, Kaylen is still in Canada, so he's not necessarily enjoying the benefits of having the vaccine like some of our American friends. So anyway,
we're not quite free yet.
No, we'll get there. We are here today to talk about some playoff hockey. Since our last show, I know it's been a minute. Things have been kind of crazy in the YWT family. We apologize for that. Since our last show, we have gotten ourselves down to 2 teams, and they will be meeting starting on Monday evening for Lord Stanley. And just like everybody guessed, every single person guessed that we would have Tampa Bay and Montreal here, right?
Well, for sure, Tampa. I think everybody knew that they basically brought back the same team that won last year. They were going to have a great shot to repeat. And knowing that Kucherov was coming back after missing the whole regular season, Tampa's no surprise. But if you would have told me in September or in December when we were starting to ramp up again and starting to get an inkling that a season was going to happen, Montreal would be in the Stanley Cup Finals.
I don't think anyone even picked them to make the playoffs. A lot of people didn't even pick them to make the playoffs. Going into the season, the North Division was pretty wide open, so I think there was definitely a case to be made that they were a playoff team. But sitting here saying that they're the last team standing in Canada and one of the last 2 teams standing in the league, I certainly wouldn't guess that.
It's shocking for sure, and even saying that it's not a surprise that they were a playoff team in the North Division. I guess depending on how you looked at the team, there was some analytics people that were saying that Montreal had the best high danger chances against out of all the North Division teams. So defensively, they were one of the best teams at defending those high danger chances that really kill you. So it made sense that they were going to be good in the playoffs, but then literally everybody else was like, no, it's the Canadiens. They're terrible. Like they have Carey Price and then who? And the whole team was just, it's crazy.
They play like a unit, and we've heard people compare them to the Islanders because they do kind of play that shutdown style. But you talk about the high danger the high danger chances against, and the defense is part of that, but at a certain point, you got to tip your cap to playoff Carey Price because he really has been fantastic. Let's dive in on these Canadiens. What do you think? What do you think about their road to get here? Right, we talk about Toronto, a Winnipeg team who looked very good against the Oilers, and then you beat maybe the best team in the league, the Vegas Golden Knights. Like they definitely earned their spot.
I mean, second best team for sure, but.
Listen, they beat the best team in a fairly long series. They have a case.
Second best team. I'm still
okay.
I'm still in absolute disbelief that that's another point. I think it comes down to the give a shit level. It's not more apparent that we look at Carey Price that all of a sudden when these players have something to play for and when they care, like they're incredible. Difference is in the regular season. Austin Matthews goes to tee up, and I know and clearly knows he's beat. Doesn't take that extra effort to try and get a stick in the lane, and he piles up 50 goals in 56 games. Whereas the playoffs, all of a sudden, no, you're trying to get absolutely everything on that puck, and all of a sudden those chances aren't as easy. And Montreal, they decided, no, we're just going to play them hard. We're going to get in lanes. We're going to make it difficult for Toronto's top players, and they worked.
Yeah,
and Carey Price
took them a couple of games too. They were down 3-1 in that series. Imagine how close we were,
and,
right? And yet here we are.
Yeah. And then Toronto did what Toronto does, and
blew a 3-1 lead.
They can't buy a series win there. Again.
Toronto did what Toronto does, and they blow a 3-goal lead. It's crazy. And then, again, we talk about that Winnipeg series, and as far as their particular road to the Cup goes, Winnipeg was probably not their hardest matchup. But as a Jets fan, what was it like watching from the other side?
That was a frustrating one to watch because you watch them do the exact same thing to Toronto, and you sit there and you think, no, it's not going to happen to the Jets, because the Jets aren't a team that gives up on playing. And the Maple Leafs gave up. You could, especially in that Game 7, they beat themselves for a lot of that. And so as a Jets fan, you're built around this team that's hard no matter what. And you see that time after time. Like what was that comeback victory in Game 3, I think, against Edmonton? They were down 3 or 4, and they came back and won in overtime. So, it's just, he never gives up. And then they just didn't look like they were ever in that series. They
and
just got beat.
Yeah, and sometimes one team just shows up and the other team doesn't. But you talk about care level, and how much of that Winnipeg series was decided when the Mark Scheifele suspension was handed down. And we don't necessarily have to talk about the suspension in terms of how right it was, how wrong it was, etc. But when we talk about a team giving up, does it make it that much easier to give up when you lose a guy like Mark Scheifele?
It's hard to say without actually being in the room, but you would think so. He's so important to that team. He's a vocal guy. He's very, you would think. He loves talking hockey, and I imagine the culture that they've been trying to build in that room is like, when you look around, Andrew Kopp is like that. Dubois brought in because he's supposed to be like that. They're just guys that are really to the game, and so when you lose a guy who's that vocal and that leader, that kind of is that aspect of your team, it's got to be tough. And you could kind of see it. You saw the struggle to really generate offense, or really or for Mark Scheifele's absence. They played well. They played well as a team, but you take out your best offensive catalyst, defensive aside, like you're gonna look awesome.
Right. And from what I saw of that series, I will be honest, I didn't watch all of it, just kind of because of the time zones in which that series took place. I did. Montreal looked good. I did notice, however, that Nikolai Ehlers looked really, really good. Through the first 2 rounds, there are definitely things to be excited out of Winnipeg. Like, Nikolai Ehlers looked really, he's having fun.
Yeah. I think the Lion trade was pretty good for him. It allowed him to, I don't know if he had a pass first, I want to make my buddy like the superstar mentality. Not that that's a bad thing, but I don't know if that was the dynamic he had. But now that Lion is gone, and Ehlers is probably the best player on that team if you're talking about raw skill, and the defensive impact, his mobility, he's easily the most underrated. And I think Maurice knows it, and you hear him kind of allude to it when he says he just likes to deploy his best weapon in certain situations. But man, that guy's got to get more ice time.
I'm sure he will, but regardless, the Montreal Canadiens, after dispatching the Winnipeg Jets, because that's really what they did, they moved on and faced the Vegas Golden Knights. That series was fun. It was a fun.
That was a good series. Cole Caulfield is one heck of a hockey player. He is very, very good.
Man, he's a stud.
He is exciting kid to watch. He can shoot the puck, and he's smart. He's a smart player.
People talk about the 48, whatever number it is, people that passed on Alex DeBrincat. I think you're going to talk a pretty similar way about the whatever it is, 11 teams that passed on Cole Caulfield. Like as far as he fell, and it wasn't very far, you might have made a mistake passing him. He's very good.
What did he go, 12?
Something like
13?
that.
What was his?
He was in the top half of the first round for sure.
Yeah, he looked good. The only thing that I worry about is, or not, I should say worry. I'm not worried about the kid. He's going to be a good hockey player. But the only thing that gives me pause is it's so much easier to step into the NHL and to have success like that when you've built your confidence in a league where you're just very clearly the best player. And that's what Caulfield did. He torched the NCAA and then a really, really strong start in the AHL. So it'll be interesting to see him start like this in next. If he struggles out of the gate, he might. He's long term. He's still good, but he might not be clear Calder next year if he's struggling to the NHL level instead of in NCAA first.
Sure, and things change a little bit once goalies have a book on you, once defensemen have a book on you, and
for sure.
We'll see, but at the same time, I don't think Montreal Canadiens fans care at all about the start to next season at the moment. I think they
not a chance. They care about right now.
Absolutely riding the high. You saw the video footage from outside the Bell Center.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's a lot of people in Montreal who are very excited.
And they have every reason to be.
They do, because Montreal. Listen, in the first round, nobody picked them. In the second round, some people probably picked them because that was a weird matchup. Third round, they went right back to nobody picking them.
Yeah.
And they're sitting here getting ready to play the defending champs who are coming for their crown again. And we'll talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning in a minute. But I want to say they can't do it, but how can I do that right now, right? Like you can't count this team out.
I'm in the exact same boat. Like, yeah, for sure. You want to say that there's no way they're going to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, but there was no way they were going to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. And there was for sure no way they were going to do it when they were down 3-1, and they did. And then there was no way they were going to sweep the Jets. Like, maybe you're right. That was a little bit less of that was kind of a coin toss. Even I think a lot of the analytics and sports community saying it's the most equal series in the second round.
It's a complete
but then again, there's absolutely no way they're going to beat the Golden Knights, right? Like there's no chance they're going to get through them, and here we are.
And honestly,
so
why not? Here's the thing: teams that win the Stanley Cup find a way. Right? They find a way to come back down from down 3-1. They find a way to get goal scoring in a guy like Cole Caulfield. They find a way to get every stop on planet Earth from a guy like Carey Price. Like, it might be their year.
And the Carey Price, it's a good segue. There's this thing about high emotion events and athletes and the thing they accomplish in those periods of like extreme strife. And I don't know if it's as worldwide news everywhere as it is here, but we've got about over 1,000 bodies have been discovered at residential schools here in Canada, and a prominent member of our Indigenous community. To imagine what he must be going and playing hockey through that, the guy's got to be so dialed in and so focused, and you can say, and like magic happens when that happens. So when you really think about like the stuff that he see him channel that and play like this, it kind of isn't a surprise because you do see it in sports, which is great. So I'm going off a tangent here.
No, it's okay. Carey Price is really one of those elite athletes who can kind of do the flow state thing And it's not
For sure.
quite the same in hockey as it is in, say, Anderson Silva in the UFC or whoever in football. It's not quite the same thing when you're a goalie, but the
Right.
man just stops pucks on instinct, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
And you see Marc-Andre Fleury do it from time to time. You see Carey Price do it from time to time. You can't teach it.
Well, Marc-Andre Fleury is, I think, the big reason that Vegas was in that position to play Montreal too, right? Like he came in and he won that series pretty handedly as well, some of those games. And
sometimes you live by the sword and you die by the sword. No Alan Walsh pun intended.
I don't believe.
No, you shouldn't believe me at all. No. So we talked a little bit about how Montreal got here. I think it's time we shift across the aisle here and talk about the team that's going against them. The Evil Empire, the New York Yankees, the $18 million over the salary cap, the Dougie Hamilton call-out team, maybe the greatest team of the salary cap era, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
So what do you think about that?
I don't think that rule should exist. I don't think they should be able to do what they did. At the same time, it's hard to begrudge them for doing it.
Yeah.
Like, that loophole should be closed. But as long as it's open, kick the door down and win a title. Let's go. Win a dynasty. You have a chance to be a dynasty.
That's fair. Like, the fact that it's not is play in the playoffs if you don't play a single regular season game, that is
right. I think you should have to have service time with the team before you're LTIR eligible.
For sure.
And it doesn't have to be a ton. It doesn't have to be a ton. Like, I understand player protection and et cetera, et cetera. But you gotta skate. You gotta play for the team.
You just can't playoffs. But again, if you miss the season, you miss the season.
But here's the thing: we sit here, it's legal. They did it. Nikita Kucherov, I believe, is still leading the playoffs in scoring after not playing a regular season game.
Having an outstanding playoffs. What, he had 27 points in 14 games or something stupid.
He would be having a good regular season. If he had 27 points through the first 14 regular season games, we'd be like, damn. Kucherov started pretty hot this year. Off. Right. Yeah. And it's the playoffs, and he didn't play all year? What? And he played the Islanders for 7 games?
Right. It makes you it makes you think. Makes you think for sure.
So, speaking of the Islanders, that was the most recent series. That's who Tampa got through. Game 7, 1-0 on a short-handed goal. It was a crazy series. We talked about Vegas-Montreal being a lot of fun. How would you describe this series?
That one was just not fun. It was not
probably
fun
not quite
all.
As fun.
It's fun. Like, if you're a coach, that's probably a great series to watch if you're a coach.
Yeah, that was a very tactical series. You saw home teams taking advantage of home ice a lot.
Yeah, a lot of matchups, a lot of playing safe hockey, and that's kind of Barry Trotz style, and that's kind of, I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to play that way until they're this, and then you're going to let 8 in.
Right, they're going to play that way until they get bored. And then Steven Stamkos and Nikita Kucherov are going to start knocking. Right.
You give them an inch and they take 8 goals on you.
And they take 8 goals on you in the playoffs, in a big playoff game. Yeah.
And so it's hard to imagine, like, how do you shut down that team then? Like, if you're Montreal, you did it to Toronto, you did it to Vegas, but none of them, like... That was like 3 first lines.
Right, and it certainly seems, when you look at kind of the systems they play and the results that they had this year, kind of seems like Tampa just beat a better version of the Canadiens in a lot of ways, right? So why should the Montreal Canadiens present a bigger challenge? Theoretically, they shouldn't.
logically, that's how I would look at it too. Yeah, but I mean, you factor in Carey Price and you give him the edge that he's the best goalie on the planet.
There it is. Yep.
There's a lot of holes, a lot of other holes that Montreal doesn't have.
But you can't.
The Islanders did.
You can't lose the game if the other team just doesn't score. Like
that's true though. That is absolutely
factually
true.
speaking, you can't. And we just saw Andrei Vasilevsky do it, right? Like you can't. I know it was only 19 saves, but hey, every save matters. And
so this could end up being one of those boring series with a bunch of 1-0 games from two goalies.
So this is gonna feel a little Harry Potter-ish, right? Ireland wins, but Crumb catches the snitch. Tampa wins, but Carey Price wins the Conn Smythe. That's my official prediction.
Interesting.
Yep.
It could very well happen because he's the only reason
6 or 7 games
there.
Right. If he rips a shutout in Game 5, come on. Whether it's to keep him in it or to put him ahead, man.
Yeah.
I can picture. It's not
impossible. Can you imagine
Game 7, 0-0 overtime?
It's for sure possible.
Picture that.
That's going to be something like that's a game that you have to watch then. But I can only hope that's what ends up happening.
That's the goal of the century.
Yeah, absolutely. Carey Price first.
And Carey Price probably wins the Conn Smythe regardless at that point.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're on to something with the fact that like it might be his anyway at this point. Like
unless he gets his doors blown off in the series.
There's been a lot of Tampa Bay. Yeah. Well, even then, like he got him there. He got him to the Stanley Cup Final.
Right. It's so boring picking the biggest all-star from the all-star team. Like
I agree.
Yes, of course I pick LeBron James from the Toon Squad. Yes, of course. But that's no fun.
But what did right, like in was it really Kucherov's points or was it Braden Point? He's having a heck of a playoffs too, or Andrei Vasilevsky's having a heck of a playoffs. Like yeah, Braden's points.
They were definitely Braden's points. How does he not have a YouTube segment on their YouTube channel called Braden's Points? Come on. Make it happen, Tampa.
That's a good point.
I see what you did there. Give me a prediction here.
I want to say that Tampa's going to clean this one up and end it pretty quickly, but I'm going to go Habs in 6. I think they did it to Vegas. They're going to do it to Tampa.
Wow.
Habs in 6.
You think there's some magic in Bergevin's red jacket?
I do. I actually do.
His celebration was so wholesome.
Just like it.
His celebration after they won was so wholesome. He's just jumping up and down like literally a kid on Christmas. If you haven't seen it, go look. Sportsnet has it on their YouTube channel. It's so good.
Well, think about how vindicating this must be for the guy. Like, Montreal media is ruthless about it. Oh, Bergevin needs to do this. Bergevin failed at this. Bergevin thinks your daughter's like. They're just horrible. And now he's taken this team that he built his way and they've gotten to the Stanley Cup Final. Man, he must just be on cloud 9.
Speaking of the Montreal,
31 actually, but
speaking of the Montreal media, how does Max Pacioretty feel right about now? He can't feel good.
You gotta think he's you would think he's pretty. In all honesty, he's disappointed, I'm sure, because nobody likes to lose. But Vegas, from everything that I read and everything that I hear, Vegas really takes care of those players. He's probably treated like a king with organization, and it's a great place to play. We were to watch Vegas and San Jose play in the playoffs 2 years ago now, maybe 3. And like, man, that building was crazy. It's beautiful in there. The fans are loud. They're passionate. And it's not a bad place to the residential area in Vegas was pretty nice. It's not like you're not that close to the strip or anything. It's not like you're
right.
So
Yeah, as far as
he's probably enjoying Vegas.
And as far as Pacioretty goes, it seemed like most of his problems were with the organization, and he's always said pretty fantastic things about the city and the fan base and stuff. I'm sure he's extremely happy for the fan base because he knows how long they've been waiting for this. Right?
Absolutely.
1993.
You don't become a captain of a team without,
especially the Montreal Canadiens as an American.
Especially
the Canadiens as an American.
American.
Right. He went out of his way to learn French, and I do know that. But either way, I'm sure he's happy for the city, and I'm sure he'll have an Instagram post in French at some point in the next couple of days here once the sting has worn off a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
For
sure. And Vegas they'll be back.
While I got you, I want one player from each team. Who do you want to see lift the cup? Like, obviously the captains are going to get it, but who's the first pass if you're in charge? Right? Who's Shea Weber passing it to? Who's
I'm going to
Mark Stone? Mark Stone's the captain in Vegas, right? Either way, who are they passing it to?
Yeah, but Tampa's in the final.
Oh, Tampa. Oh, wow. I completely forgot. Wow. Woof. It's been a long time since we did a show. It's been like 4 weeks. Steven Stamkos and and
Stamkos.
Shea Weber.
Let's start with Tampa. That was a tough one.
You got to give it to somebody who wasn't on the team last year, right? Because all these guys got their moment with the cup last year. Who's in the pack?
David Savard, maybe?
Somebody. That's the answer. Yep. You hit it first try. It's 100%. It's 100% David Savard, first guy with the cup. Absolutely. Right. That's why you make that trade.
He's been around. There's some tough miles on him. Yeah.
Right. And it's not Ray Bourque. It's not even Kimmo Timonen. But it's a nice little story.
No.
Man, Kimmo Timonen.
For sure.
Sometimes if I need a
Montreal,
good cry, I'll go watch the Kimmo Timonen Cup raise. Man, it's... Whew.
I watched the Ray Bourque one. The Joe Sakic, when it's just immediate.
Yeah. Joe Sakic didn't think for a millisecond about putting that cup up.
No. He's like, just get ready to lift it. I don't even want it.
And Taves did the same exact thing. He turned around and he was already screaming for Kimmo Timonen. Love me some cup raises. David Savard is not that. Montreal might have one of those though.
No, but it'll still be a touching moment.
Yeah, Montreal might have some though.
Who would that be? Who do you think?
I think it's the goalie, homie.
There's a few guys that. Yeah, that's the easy answer though.
Correct.
That's the easy answer is to pick Carey Price.
Correct. It sure is.
It is also the correct
Sometimes
answer.
The correct answer. Right. Sometimes the easy answer is the correct answer. Because we talk about things people have done for that. We talk about things people have done for that city. We talked about Max Pacioretty. PK Subban's kind of in that trilogy too. Carey Price is right up there with him, man. And he's still there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Although, honestly, after the garbage he's gotten from a lot of Canadiens fans this season, they don't necessarily deserve it.
It's shocking that he signed that long in Montreal. Yeah, not at all.
It's like, what, the second year of that deal?
There's some other good candidates, though, like you. Maybe?
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Other good candidates. Shea Weber. Shea Weber's a great candidate. The guy who's getting the cup first.
Yeah, just to keep it. Yeah, just to keep it go for skate.
He certainly deserves
maybe
to go
give
for
it to Corey Perry. I know he... Yeah. I know Perry won one already, but that was a while ago now. Oh, he's got one with the Ducks.
Well, Perry certainly doesn't get it before Carey Price. I mean, he certainly doesn't get it before Carey Price.
No. Carey... In all honesty, like, Carey Price is getting it first. That's what's going to happen. But
Mark Bergevin might get it second.
Yeah.
Because he'll be on the ice.
Out there with his skates, skating around in that red suit.
That red-ass jacket.
With his huge biceps.
Right, the most in shape person on the ice. He lifts the cup with one hand.
Yeah, for sure. And Weber. Oh man.
Yeah.
That would be not surprising at all.
But either way, it's going to be a fantastic series. Like, we're going to see unstoppable force, immovable object, kind of like we've seen out of the Montreal Canadiens all playoffs, and like we've seen out of the Tampa Bay Lightning all playoffs. Like, they've both been dominant at times. It's going to be good.
For sure, and you can Montreal may even have an advantage because you can look at the Islanders and say, look, like this is how they played, and they won 3 games. They just needed to win one more that they probably could have won. I think they got pretty badly outplayed in that last game, but it was right there for them. Montreal can look at that and say, look,
right.
This is the blueprint. Yeah, we just got to do it better. I mean, if we believe we can do it better, which I would just do, there you go. And all you got to do is get a group of guys to believe, and then all of a sudden you win 6 games.
All you got to do is beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 4 out of 7 games, which, as proven over the last couple of years, has not been an easy feat. I'm curious if the Tampa Bay Lightning have lost any stretch 4 of 7 games since that, like even including the regular season. Because I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't. Like just any 7-game stretch with 4 losses in it.
Oh, yeah. I bet you they haven't.
Maybe since that Columbus series.
Yeah.
Like last year they put up historic numbers, and then this year was weird.
Yeah. It's
last year they barely lost 4 games all
different
season.
Teams for 7 games in a row. Last year was ridiculous, and that's without Kucherov. Like they would have been by far the best team in the league if he had played.
Yep.
They almost were by far the best team in the league without him.
You have the Habs in 6, huh?
I think so. I got a feeling.
Wow. Okay. Now.
Yeah, I'm gonna just do that.
If
me putting it out there curses them, and now they lose, then good.
Okay.
But
I was about to ask, as a Canadian, are you happy that a Canadian team might win the cup, or do you not care because they're like a rival? I'm just curious where you're at on it specifically, because I've heard both sides.
I think it's a dumb argument to say that you have to back the Canadian team when nearly 50% of the league is Canadian players. I think that
it doesn't
if Tampa
really
wins,
matter at the end
I think
of the
the Cup ends up spending. Yeah, I think the Cup spends more time in Canada if Tampa wins than if Montreal wins. I'm pretty sure there's more Canadians on that Tampa squad.
I believe that.
So, like, it's cool to like get behind. You know that the community can get behind them. You can kind of cheer from like a country perspective, but I mean, if we want to say that we're the better country at hockey, we just point to the Olympics. We don't need the Stanley Cups because we got a lot of gold medals.
Hey, but we got all those Stanley Cups now. Well, yeah, but no Canadian team has won since what, 1993?
Yeah, and it was the Habs.
Yeah, so at a certain point, you just kind of want somebody to win, right? You guys have 7 teams and nobody can win a cup.
Yeah, I think it's hard to play in Canada though. Like your American media outlets don't really care to the extent that, like, if you think about the size of even Winnipeg compared to the size of like most NHL markets in the States, and our viewership of hockey like dwarfs yours with a smaller population. It's just how crazy about hockey we are here. It is so hard to play in that market when, you know, like you got to answer questions about the 4th shift you had in the second period where you dog shitted a back check to every guy on the street if you're walking to get a cup of coffee from 7-Eleven. Like, that doesn't happen in the States, right? You at least get to escape hockey if you don't want to talk about it.
Well, and from what I hear, Quebec ramps it up even another step, right? Like, don't they have their own TMZ for Canadians players? Like, ridiculous.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure they do.
Actually, I have no idea if that's. It wouldn't surprise me, but yeah, it's
pretty
just
sure they do, and that's
they're
absurd.
crazy about it there. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Nobody's gonna party harder than them if they win, though. Oh boy, Quebec is gonna burn.
It's gonna be like the Vancouver riots all over again. What was that?
I was about to say, y'all
2010?
thought Vancouver was tough. Imagine if they won the thing.
That was when they lost. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Montreal's gonna. It'll be a social distance riot, though. The fires will be 6 feet apart.
Not in Quebec, it won't be.
No.
All right. So we have a final prediction from you. My final prediction, man. I think I said Tampa, but did I give a game? I don't think I gave games. Let's go game 7.
I don't think so. I think you did say Tampa, though.
I think I'm going to go game 7 here. I want to see a Stanley Cup game 7. I think they're fun.
I would like it too. Yeah, that would be nice.
Did St. Louis and Boston go to 7?
It's hard to imagine.
Or did they go to 6?
I don't remember, actually.
I believe they went to 7. I know Tampa did not go to 7 last year. I believe they did go to game 7. The Blues won that game 4-1. That was, 2 years now?
Yeah.
All right.
That series sucked. That was just a hard. The Jets lost a tough series to the Blues that year.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun watching that series. That series was crazy. All right. So I got the Lightning in 7. You have the Habs in 6. I'm sure people will feel free to let us know when
6.
one or the other of us is wrong. Yeah. We do have a little bit
only
of
one of us
Flyers
can
news.
be. So.
That's fair. We do have a little bit of Flyers news to talk about before we get out of here. It's really not a whole lot. Kaylen is not a huge Flyers fan. I do not expect him to know a whole lot about the Flyers prospects here, but he can kind of throw out whatever he knows. Lena Sandin. Nolan Patrick's still sitting there unsigned, and we can talk about him for sure. The extensions that we've gotten so far have all been 1 year for $750,000. Nothing significant here. Felix Sandstrom, German Rubitsov, and Lena Sandin have all signed two-way deals, just kind of stay in the organization. Nothing really huge there. Any of those guys stand out to you, Kaylen?
I feel like I used to read a little bit about Rubitsov and his all-around play. He's supposed to be a good middle six prospect. I haven't really dove any deeper into those guys. So
he was a late first-round pick. He's 23 and hasn't cracked the NHL level yet. He's been okay at the AHL level. He's been solid. He's played a couple of games for the Flyers, but has never really stuck at the NHL level.
But then, a tweener.
Yeah. Speaking of tweeners, we also have Carson Twarynski and Samuel Morin, who are still unsigned. And then the two names who I think are
Carson Twarynski?
He really is. And then there's really only two significant names to talk about here, and we have Travis Sanheim, who's an RFA with arbitration rights, and Nolan Patrick, who signed a 1 year, $1 million extension this past season, and I kind of expect him to sign something similar again this year. Travis Sanheim is probably looking for a bit of a big boy deal, though.
I was a little bit surprised that Patrick even played. I didn't, living in Winnipeg here, we get a little bit more news about the kid than we probably really deserve or want to.
I forgot he played his junior.
All signs kind of sounded like.
Did he play his junior in Manitoba, or is he from
here? He's
okay.
Yeah, no, both. He played for Brandon, and he's from Winnipeg.
Okay.
So you just hear talk and stuff, and
you
whether it's true or not or whatever. It didn't sound like he was. Yeah, for sure. Well, not last year. It didn't sound like he was going to play. It sounded like maybe a migraine disorder was a thing, and there was some unhappiness with how Philly was treating him, and but turns out rumors are wrong because he played this year, and yeah, as most they usually are.
Trust me, we're not happy with how our number two
it was good to see him
overall
out there.
pick is
It's good to
treating us
see.
either.
The development's not a straight line, right? So you never know what a guy can still turn into.
No, listen, we wish the kid nothing but the best. We know that it's not, well, we do take that pretty seriously. We know. But.
Yeah. You take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, but either way, I kind of expect him to sign another wait-and-see deal because he didn't really look all that great this year. So he's probably going to get a little bit of a bridge deal here. And again, Travis Sanheim, we don't really know what we're expecting out of him with the cap staying flat. So not a whole lot of news to report. Shocker.
What was he making last year?
Last year, I think he made like 3.5 on a 2-year bridge deal. Yeah, he made 3.25 per year over the previous 2 seasons. So probably looking at that.
Okay, so you expect that to go
again.
up a little bit.
I don't know. He had a pretty medium year. A lot of the defense had a pretty medium year. The team will probably try to get him in at that number for probably 2 or 3 years. Maybe walk him to the end of his RFA eligibility. I'm not really sure. But either way, not a whole lot of news in Flyerville here. Turns out when your team misses the playoffs and is bad.
The draft.
Yeah. When your team misses the playoffs and is bad, it doesn't get easier. So I think that's actually just about going to do it for us today. We talked about the upcoming series. We talked about the Flyers news that we had to talk about. We both have a Stanley Cup prediction. Kaylen, anything you want to talk about, get off your chest before we get out of here?
Nope. Just want to say thank you for having me. This was fun, and
absolutely,
yeah, it was great.
I appreciate that. Well,
go Habs, I think.
Go Habs, apparently, but it's not because you're Canadian. It's just a coincidence.
Yeah, it's just a coincidence. Yeah,
right. So either way, that'll do it for today's show. I believe the current plan is for Kevin and I to return in 2 weeks with probably a draft preview, looking ahead to the schedule, draft, free agency, et cetera, et cetera. We will have a cup champion by then, so we will talk about whatever happened. Our Twitters and stuff have been scrolling along at the bottom of the screen, but you can follow us there at YWT Podcast. Kevin is at Kevin_Durso. Kaylen, do you have a Twitter account you want to throw out, or?
Nope.
Okay, sounds good. And if you can follow the show everywhere you find your podcasts, Instagram, Podbean, iTunes, Google Podcasts. We are also found on sportstalkphilly.com. And make sure to follow Kevin. I think I said that already, at Kevin_Durso. He's not here. It's weird. The outros are weird when Kevin's not here. So
follow Kevin.
Yes. Make sure to follow Kevin. He's a much better follow than the podcast account at the moment anyway. We will be back. Another shout out, Kevin. Happy anniversary, you and your wife, et cetera, et cetera. And until next time, see ya.